My family skipped my wedding for my sister's party, then lied about it for years. When she wore Grandma's necklace on her wedding day, my lawyer delivered the letter that stopped everything. Weddings are supposed to be the day when everything finally comes together. The dress, the vows, the terrible DJ you hire because he reminds you of your uncle with a microphone. I planned for all of it. I expected nerves. I expected a few tears. What I did not expect were 5 empty chairs staring back at me like open accusations. My name is Jason Miller. I was 29 years old, and on the day I married the love of my life, Rachel, I learned exactly where I stood with the people who were supposed to love me most. It was a perfect May afternoon in Chicago. The sun lit up the rooftop venue like something out of a romantic comedy montage. Rachel looked like a miracle walking down the aisle. I should have been the happiest man alive. But there they were. 5 pristine white chairs in the front row, each one marked with a little gold card. Mom, Dad, Samantha, Ethan, Tyler. All of them empty. My parents, my sister, and her fiancé, and my best friend since 5th grade. Tyler was not just any friend. He was supposed to be my best man. I had saved a seat for each of them. I had reserved their meals, paid for their accommodations, sent reminders, and triple confirmed every RSVP. They did not even bother to text. I kept telling myself there had to be a reason. Maybe a delayed flight. Maybe an Uber stuck in traffic. Maybe someone got sick. Maybe Tyler had a family emergency. Maybe my dad's knee had flared up again. But by the time the music started and Rachel began walking down the aisle, the truth settled over me like wet cement. They were not coming. I swallowed the lump in my throat because Rachel deserved my full heart, not a fractured one. So I smiled. I held her hand when she reached the altar. I whispered my vows like nothing was wrong. Like my mother was not supposed to be crying in the front row. Like my sister had not posted a photo just 1 week earlier with the caption, "Can't wait to see you walk down the aisle, big bro." Instead, Samantha and her fiancé were missing. My parents were missing. Tyler, the guy who once tackled a kid in middle school for stealing my sandwich, had not even replied to my "See you Saturday" text. I barely got through the ceremony. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, the crowd erupted in cheers. I saw my cousin Emily in the second row, her eyes locked on mine, filled with something between sympathy and restrained fury. At the reception, I did what people like me are trained to do. I smiled. I laughed. I clinked glasses. I posed for pictures. Rachel's family was lovely, supportive, and overjoyed. Her dad cried during his speech. Her mom hugged me so tightly that I thought she might have felt how hollow I was underneath the tux. Rachel noticed. Of course she did. She asked me softly if there was still nothing. I shook my head and told her there was nothing at all. We danced. We cut the cake. We even slipped away to a quiet corner of the rooftop to eat sliders in peace. But through it all, I could not stop glancing at my phone. Still blank. No calls. No "sorry we are late." No last-minute apology, just silence. When the night ended and Rachel and I walked back to the suite hand in hand, she kissed my cheek and whispered that we had made it, just us. That was when I started to realize that maybe just us had always been enough. I just had not seen it clearly until 5 empty chairs forced me to. The morning after our wedding, Rachel and I woke up in a hotel suite that still smelled like flowers and frosting. There were crumpled suits on the floor, a bouquet halfway out of a vase, and a fancy breakfast neither of us touched. I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone. Still nothing from my parents. Nothing from Samantha. Nothing from Tyler. Then, right as I was about to put the phone down, a new message finally appeared. It was from my mom. She wrote that she hoped the wedding had been lovely and that we needed to talk when I had a moment. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just a message from my mother, written like she had missed brunch, not her own son's wedding. I replied with one word. Why? A few minutes later, my dad responded. It was the first time he had texted me in weeks. He told me it was complicated. Samantha's fiancé's family had flown in from New York, and they could not be in 2 places at once. He said he hoped I understood. He hoped I understood. I showed Rachel the message. She stared at the screen like it was written in another language. They had skipped my wedding because of an engagement party. Not a wedding, not a medical emergency, not even a funeral. An engagement party. And not just any engagement party. One Samantha had scheduled only 3 weeks earlier, after we had already sent our invitations, after we had booked the venue, after my parents had already RSVP'd yes. I did not answer them. I did not trust myself to. Rachel and I flew to Mexico the next day for our honeymoon, but I carried that message with me like sand in my shoes. During every beach walk, every cocktail, every moment when I should have felt joy, I kept replaying the same words. We could not be in two places at once, as if they had been forced to pick sides. But they had not hesitated when they picked hers. I had been second place my whole life. Samantha was the golden child, the miracle baby, the one my parents had after they learned how to parent better. I was the trial run. I was the kid who had to mow lawns and clean gutters, while Samantha got dance lessons, new iPhones, and a little pony when she turned 16. A pony. I did not even get a birthday cake that year because money was tight. When Rachel and I came back from our honeymoon, I called my cousin Emily. She had not said anything at the wedding, but her eyes had said enough, and I needed answers. At first, she hesitated. Then she sighed and told me they had never planned to come. I froze. She told me my family had been telling everyone at Samantha's engagement party that I had scheduled my wedding to upstage Samantha's engagement. That was a lie. We had picked that date 6 months earlier. Emily knew. She had seen the invitation list. But they claimed I had moved the date out of jealousy. I did not even know what to say. Jealous of what? Samantha getting engaged to a guy who wore loafers without socks and called himself an investor without specifying what he actually invested in? Then Emily's voice got softer. She told me Tyler had been telling people I did not even want him as my best man, and that was why he stayed away. That one hit worse. Tyler was the guy I trusted with every dumb secret. He was the guy who helped me through the worst year of my life, when Rachel and I briefly split up. According to Emily, he had said I had been distant and that I did not think he supported my relationship. I laughed, but it came out cold and bitter. He had ghosted me for her, just like the rest of them. Rachel walked in right then, holding 2 mugs of coffee. She did not ask for details. She just handed me one and kissed my forehead. She told me I did not need them. I nodded, but deep down, something cracked that day. Not because they had skipped the wedding, because they had lied about why. And that meant something worse was coming. 2 weeks after the honeymoon, Rachel and I hosted a small dinner at our apartment. Nothing fancy, just lasagna, cheap wine, and friends who actually cared enough to show up. Emily came too. She brought a bottle of Pinot and, without warning, dropped a truth bomb over garlic bread. She told me she had not wanted to say anything at the wedding, but she thought I needed to see something. She pulled out her phone and turned the screen toward me. It was a photo from Samantha's engagement party. Samantha was posing with her fiancé, champagne flute in hand, standing center stage in a room full of streamers and glowing friends. But it was not the backdrop I noticed. It was the necklace. A delicate strand of vintage pearls with a small sapphire in the center. Our grandmother's wedding necklace. I stared at the screen and asked if it was really what I thought it was. Emily nodded. She said she had thought Samantha might be wearing a copy, but she was not. It was the original. I shook my head. Grandma had left that necklace to me in her will. My mom had told me it was damaged and not wearable. Emily said that was what my mom had told everyone, but apparently she had given it to Samantha instead because it made more sense for the woman in the family to have it. My stomach turned. That necklace was not just jewelry, it was a piece of my childhood. It was Sunday visits and warm hugs and stories told over tea. Grandma had worn it at her wedding, at her 40th anniversary, and on the day she held Rachel's hand and told her to take care of me. That necklace was the last thing she had ever promised me. Now it was draped around Samantha's neck at the party she had thrown to upstage my wedding. I stared at the photo. Rachel sat beside me, her hands slowly wrapping around mine. She told me she was so sorry. It was not just petty anymore, it was personal. It was intentionally cruel. I did not reply to my parents' messages after that. I did not reply to Samantha's comment on our wedding photo either. She wrote that she was so happy for us and wished they could have been there, with two little hearts as if she had missed it because of traffic and not because she had thrown a competing event. But I did not rage. I did not blow up the family group chat. I did not post receipts on Facebook. Instead, I started collecting everything. Every voicemail, every text, every comment that came back to me through friends and through Emily. The lies, the snide remarks, all of it. I saved Tyler's version of events where he claimed I had replaced him with a coworker at the last minute. I saved my mother's story about how Rachel and I had excluded them by holding a private ceremony. I saved Samantha's performance as the heartbroken sister, who supposedly just wanted both celebrations to matter. Rachel supported me every step of the way. She did not push. She did not ask for revenge. But one night over takeout, she told me that if I ever wanted to do something about it, she would back me. So I got to work. I poured myself into my job. I got promoted. Then I got promoted again. Rachel and I moved to Dallas for a fresh start, somewhere with no ghosts. I flipped my first property. Then I flipped a second. Within 18 months, I was running my own team and managing investment deals on the side. My parents never stopped pretending. Holiday cards arrived signed with "Love Always." Samantha invited us to her bridal shower. Tyler sent a half-hearted message after 9 months of silence, saying he hoped I was well. I stayed silent, but not because I had forgiven them. I was building something real, something strong, and I was going to make sure that when I finally said something, they would have no way to lie their way out of it. By the time Samantha's wedding announcement arrived, a glossy card with gold leaf accents and a photo of her twirling in a vineyard like she had invented wine, I already had a folder on my desktop labeled, "In case they keep pushing." And they did. The invitation came on thick, heavy cardstock, mailed in a matching box. It asked us to join them in Napa Valley for a weekend of celebration, as if we were all still playing Happy Family and had not spent years ghosting each other across multiple states. Rachel found it in our mailbox one afternoon. She opened it silently, held it up, and asked if I thought they had sent it as bait. I did not answer. I just added it to the folder. By that point, I had already spent almost 2 years rebuilding my life. I had a new city, a new title, Director of Strategy, and a new network of people who valued me for who I was, not who I was expected to be. Rachel had launched her own event planning business and was booking clients faster than she could print business cards. We were solid. So when I got a call from Emily, the kind that begins with, "Please do not freak out," I did not freak out. I listened. She told me she had found something in Grandma's estate files. It was an amendment to the will, handwritten, signed, witnessed. I stopped pacing and asked her to go on. She told me Grandma had left the necklace to me, but the amendment also said Samantha could wear it for her engagement party, with my permission only. I blinked. Samantha had borrowed it. She had never owned it. And my mother had never told me that part. Emily confirmed the document was real and said she was emailing it right away. When I opened the file, I just sat there, staring at Grandma's unmistakable cursive. My name, Samantha's name, the date, and the line that changed everything. To Jason, with love and trust. Samantha may borrow it only if approved. I closed the file, stood up, and looked around our home at everything Rachel and I had built without a dime of family support. For the first time in 2 years, I did not feel hollow anymore. I felt ready. Rachel walked in holding a glass of wine and raised an eyebrow. She told me I was doing that thing again. I asked what thing. She said it was the face I made when I was about to destroy someone's public image without raising my voice. I grinned and asked if it was that obvious. She nodded and asked what the plan was. I told her I wanted the necklace back. She asked what would happen if they refused. I paused. Then I told her I would show up with the legal paperwork on Samantha's wedding day. Rachel did not even blink. She only asked if I wanted help drafting the letter. That week we called an attorney named Charles. He was quiet, direct, and no nonsense. The kind of man who handled estate disputes and had a stare that could freeze lava. I gave him the document, the photo from Samantha's engagement party, and copies of every message, RSVP, and calendar date proving that Rachel and I had scheduled our wedding first. He looked through everything, nodded once, and told me he could issue a formal demand. If the necklace was not returned, we would escalate. Then he suggested timing it just right. Rachel smiled and said we absolutely would. 3 weeks later, I learned Samantha's wedding would take place at a vineyard estate in Napa. It was going to be a weekend-long event with influencers, a live jazz band, and one of those flower walls people use for Instagram. Perfect. We held off on sending anything. We waited. I kept my distance. And the whole time, my parents kept posting things like how proud they were of both their amazing children and how they could not wait to watch their little girl walk down the aisle. Sure, just not the first one. Rachel and I booked a dinner reservation in San Francisco for the same weekend, an anniversary getaway conveniently located just in case anything needed to be delivered. When the final week arrived, I met with Charles one more time. He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a formal legal demand for the return of inherited property, notarized and supported by estate documentation. I held it in my hands and smiled. Saturday morning in Napa Valley was too perfect. Clear skies, 76 degrees, that California breeze that makes people forget their problems, unless they are the problem about to be exposed. Rachel and I sat at a quiet bistro in San Francisco, sipping coffee and pretending to debate dessert. My phone buzzed. Charles had texted that the letter had been delivered and handed directly to the venue coordinator. I thanked him. Rachel peeked at me over her sunglasses and asked if I thought Samantha had opened it yet. I smirked and said, not yet, but she would probably while getting her makeup done. The demand letter was not aggressive. It was clean, concise, professional, and airtight. It cited the original estate documentation, included the line about Samantha borrowing the necklace only with my permission, and gave a firm deadline. The necklace had to be returned within 24 hours, or legal proceedings would follow. A civil claim for possession of inherited property was already prepared, filed, signed, and ready to go. We also, by pure coincidence, copied the venue's legal team, the event coordinator, and security. Because nothing says happy wedding day like watching your planner panic in the middle of setup. I did not have to wait long. At 2:14 p.m., Emily texted me. It happened. I asked for details. She told me Samantha had opened the letter while the makeup artist was doing her eyes. She screamed, knocked over a table, accused our mother of sabotaging her moment, and yanked the necklace off in the middle of the meltdown. Someone filmed it. According to Emily, it was chaos. I did not respond. I just turned my phone toward Rachel. She raised her glass to good timing. From what Emily later told us, the entire scene unraveled like a reality show on Fast Forward. Samantha was in the middle of bridal prep when she opened the envelope, probably expecting some cute gift or card. Instead, she found a legal document with her full name on it, citing misuse of inherited property. She lost it, and she did not lose it quietly. She screamed at my mother that she had said I did not want the necklace. Then she turned to her fiancé with tears and smeared eyeliner, demanding to know why he had not checked first. In front of the photographer, the florist, and two bridesmaids holding bouquets, Samantha yanked the necklace off her neck and hurled it onto the floor, cracking a heel in the process. Someone's aunt gasped. A groomsman started filming. The planner called for a break. The jazz band kept playing like nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Charles had ensured that a copy of the letter made its way to local press. Specifically, it reached a journalist Rachel had once worked with for a nonprofit gala. The journalist, intrigued by the story of a disputed family heirloom, posted a vague but spicy headline that afternoon about vineyard wedding drama and a legal battle over a necklace interrupting the ceremony. No names, but enough breadcrumbs for local people to start talking. By evening, a few posts connected the dots. So did Samantha's face in the background of a now-deleted Instagram story caught mid-meltdown clutching her bare neck. Apparently, she still walked down the aisle, but without the necklace, and with a scowl that did not match the soft jazz playing behind her. Her guests smiled politely. Her Instagram followers speculated. Her in-laws were furious. Word got back to Rachel and me that they were deeply embarrassed. Tyler, yes, that Tyler, tried messaging me later that night. He asked if this had really been necessary. I did not reply. I just forwarded his message to Emily with one word: predictable. Rachel and I finished dinner, ordered dessert, walked through Chinatown, and later, while we were curled up in our hotel room, she asked me softly if I was okay. I thought about the necklace. I thought about the photos, the years of silence, the gaslighting, and the lies. Then I told her that for the first time in a while, I really was. Samantha's wedding ended in what she later called an intimate moment of reflection. Translation: she stormed out of her own reception 30 minutes after the cake was cut. The necklace was quietly returned, not to me, but to Charles, with a single-line email from her planner saying they were fulfilling the request and asking him to confirm receipt. No apology, no explanation, just surrender. Charles confirmed the return and logged it. I did not say a word. I was not looking for a thank you. I only wanted the truth to finally carry weight. But the real fallout began after the last glass of wine was poured. It started with whispers. Mutual friends from Boston sent me screenshots of Facebook comments. Samantha was calling me vindictive. My mom was trying to spin the whole thing into a misunderstanding about timelines. Tyler, ever the spineless ambassador, posted something about how sometimes family lets you down, but love wins anyway. He followed it with a photo of himself hugging Samantha. What love exactly? The kind that skips a sibling's wedding and lies about it for 2 years? Rachel and I stayed quiet. We did not need to speak. The necklace now displayed in a small glass case in our home office said enough. Then came the text from my mother 4 days after Samantha's wedding. She told me we needed to talk and that the whole thing was being blown out of proportion. I did not answer. An hour later, another message came. She said they had not wanted things to end this way and asked me to be reasonable. Then she wrote that I had always been more sensitive than my sister and that this was not healthy. That one made Rachel laugh out loud. She said Samantha had skipped my wedding, taken my inheritance, let people lie about me, and somehow I was the sensitive one. That night, the phone call started. 7 calls, then 11, then 20. At 1:13 a.m., my mother left a voicemail. Her voice sounded tired and sharper than usual. She said I was destroying the family over a piece of jewelry and over 1 day. She admitted they had made a choice, but said it was never meant to hurt me. Then she said I should have just talked to them. I played it twice, then I saved it. I thought maybe that would be the end of it, but 2 days later, it happened. My father showed up at our door. I was working from home. Rachel was out on a site visit. I heard the knock, looked through the peephole, and there he was, standing in khakis and a windbreaker, like he was dropping off cookies. I opened the door only a crack. He gave me a sheepish, forced smile and called me kiddo. I said nothing. He said he thought maybe we could talk about all the drama and maybe we could let the past go. I asked if he meant the part where he chose Samantha over me. He flinched and said that was not fair. I asked if he meant the part where he gave away Grandma's necklace, lied about it, and helped paint me as unstable to the entire family. His jaw tightened. He said it was not like that. I told him it was exactly like that. We stood there in silence. He shuffled his feet. I could smell his aftershave, the same brand he used when I was a kid. Funny how nostalgia does not cancel pain. Finally, he told me that he and my mother just wanted the family back together. He said they were not getting any younger. I looked him straight in the eyes and told him I thought what he really meant was that they were not getting any invitations anymore. He blinked. I told him he wanted back in now that the photos were ugly and the in-laws were angry. But he had shut the door on me first. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I shut the door. I did not slam it. I just closed it. Behind me, the house felt warmer. Rachel came home 10 minutes later, and I told her everything. She said it had been overdue. Then she pointed to the necklace and told me that on our next anniversary, she wanted to wear it. I smiled and told her it was hers too. After the door clicked shut behind my father, I waited for a follow-up knock, a dramatic voicemail, a family group chat explosion, or some long-winded apology about misunderstandings, heat of the moment, or how that was just how families were. But none of it came. The house stayed still. The phone stayed silent. At first, it felt strange. Then, it felt good. For the first time in years, I was not waiting for a bomb to drop a lie to catch up with me. or an apology to collapse halfway through a sentence. The silence, unfamiliar at first, became a kind of music, the kind you only notice after a storm. Rachel and I got back to living. That had always been the plan, to keep building forward, not backward. Her event planning business exploded after a viral TikTok from a celebrity client gushing about her flawless wedding magic. Suddenly, she had a waiting list 3 months long and brides begging for cancellations. Meanwhile, I was promoted again, this time to senior director. I led strategy for a national rollout, oversaw a hiring wave, and hit my personal savings goal 6 months ahead of schedule. I bought another property, a mid-century fixer in Austin that I had been watching for a while. It felt good to make decisions for me again. Then the offer came, a relocation package. San Francisco, bigger scope, higher pay, a chance to build a division from scratch. When I told Rachel, her eyes lit up, not because of the city, but because of the freedom. She called it a new coast and a clean slate. We packed up in spring and left Dallas with 2 moving vans and 0 regrets. San Francisco felt different from the beginning. Something about the fog in the morning and the sun by noon. We found a 2-story place in Noe Valley with big windows, a tiny balcony, and just enough space for a life that no longer had to shrink around anyone else's expectations. I unpacked the necklace carefully. We kept it in a custom glass display just as Rachel wanted. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Some things you fight for because they matter, even when no one else believes they do. Rachel put her hand on my shoulder as I set the case down. She said it was not about the pearls. I told her I knew. She said it was about the principle. It belonged to me. They knew it, and they took it anyway. The months that followed were oddly quiet. Samantha vanished from social media for a while. When she returned, her tone had changed. Less curated joy, more vague self-help quotes, no more mentions of her husband. Emily later told me they were taking time apart. Her in-laws had cooled off, and Samantha had stopped talking about starting fresh and was now reevaluating her priorities. That was familiar code for things falling apart while someone tried to rebrand the damage. Tyler never reached out again, not even a birthday text. Not that I expected one. He had always been the kind of friend who disappeared the second the shine wore off. Some people mistake proximity for loyalty. I do not anymore. And my parents sent nothing. No cards, no updates, no sudden confessions. Just the digital version of dead air. For a while, I wondered if it hurt them. I wondered if they sat at dinners and avoided my name. I wondered if my mom checked my LinkedIn in secret, trying to figure out where I had gone. I wondered if my dad told himself he had done what he thought was best, while ignoring how deeply he had failed me. I will never know. But I stopped needing to. Rachel and I celebrated our anniversary quietly. No pomp, no posturing. We dressed up, booked a rooftop dinner overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, and clinked glasses under soft string lights. She wore the necklace, not because of its history, but because it looked incredible with her dress. At one point, a young waiter, nervous but eager, asked if it was our first year together. Rachel smiled and told him it was not our first year together, but it was our first year free. He blinked, unsure how to respond. Then he said that was the best kind. He was not wrong. Later, Rachel and I walked hand in hand through the quiet city. We passed a bakery where a family was in the middle of an argument. A teenage girl was shouting. A mother was pulling out her phone. A father was trying not to be noticed. For a split second, something tightened in my chest. Then Rachel squeezed my fingers. Softly, she told me not to go there. She reminded me that I was here now with her. I looked at her. I looked at the necklace. I looked at the life we had built entirely without the people who were supposed to love me most. And I knew she was right. That was the final year I gave any part of myself to people who had already sold me out. Not out of anger, out of peace. 1 year later to the day, Rachel and I were back in San Francisco. Same anniversary, same restaurant, same rooftop table booked under the same alias, because the hostess always forgot we had been there before. She wore the necklace again. It shimmered in the candlelight, elegant and quiet. It was no longer a symbol of stolen inheritance. It had become a reminder of everything we had reclaimed. Halfway through dessert, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I did not answer. Then it buzzed again, this time a voicemail. Then another. Then a text from a number I had not saved, but I did not need to. The tone was unmistakable. It was my mother. She said it was important and asked me to call her. Rachel glanced at the screen, then looked at me and asked if I was good. I nodded and told her I was better than ever. We paid the check and walked out onto the street. The air was crisp and just a little dramatic, like it knew something had shifted. Later that night, after a bottle of wine and far too many photos on our tiny balcony, I finally listened to the voicemail. My mother sounded nervous, forcefully calm. She said she knew it had been a while. She said she did not know if she should call, but my father was not doing well, and she thought maybe I would want to know. Maybe we could talk. I deleted it. Then I opened my drawer and pulled out the last thing they had ever sent me. Samantha's wedding invitation. Still in its box, thick, gold-trimmed, pointless. I took the necklace off Rachel's neck for just a moment and set it beside the invitation. One was something they had tried to erase me from. The other was something they had tried to steal. And in the end, both meant nothing without me. I slid the drawer shut, locked it, and never opened it again.